It is my pleasure to welcome, as part of the Paris International Film Festival, a Q&A with the director and the subject of Front Stage and Back, Charlie Williams and Theodore Bouloukos. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you for having me.
How are you both doing?
We're good. Both drinking our cups of tea.
Because if I'm right in thinking, this is kind of the debut of the film. Is it premiering at the festival, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's going to be the first screening, the first outing. So we're excited about it. It would have been good to see it in a room full of people, but such is the world right now. We're very happy to be part of the festival and see how it goes down.
One of the things that really kind of strikes me about the film, and particularly about you two, is there's clearly this very close bond that you have. And one of the things that especially struck me was, Theo, throughout the film, when you're talking to the camera, you don't just, speak to the camera, you distinctly refer to Charlie. You say his name as if you're conversing with him. How long did you acclimatize to each other beforehand? Did you get to know each other?
Well, Charlie, do you want to?
No, you go, Theo. I'm interested.
Well, I did know Charlie as a friend and as a colleague. He had edited Bad Boy Lover Boy, a feature film directed by Andres Torres that I had done several years before. And we had collected to provide the voiceover narration for the Blu-ray. And it was after that they together proposed this idea of doing a documentary about me as a working actor in New York City. So I'm also, a fairly, accomplished, if you will. I've made a lot of movies, so I'm just used to the camera. So I don't think of it as any kind of intrusion. It's there. I'm well trained to ignore it, and because of the nature of the project that required, sort of my subjectivity via the lens of Mr. Charlie Williams, I didn't feel, if we'd had a crew, perhaps it might have been different, but it was just Charlie and me. So whom else would I have addressed?
Mm. Charlie, did you feel this sort of same bond? Is it something that grew over time as you were filming?
For sure. I did know Theo fairly well before we started, and he was a little bit, he wanted to know early on that I wasn't going to mess him around, and I think he could see quite quickly that I just wanted to let him take the reins, and I didn't want to manipulate or script him or encourage him to do anything. I just wanted to be around him because I knew that the life that he was leading was going to speak for itself, and the film would take on a kind of life of its own. So, I shot over 200 hours of footage over the course of 2 years. So obviously during that time, we spent a lot of time together, and the trust was always very strong. And I think that comes through in the film, as you noticed.
The thing you were saying there about kind of you've acclimatized to the camera throughout your career so far, and one of the quotes that kind of stuck out to me that you say during the film is you say, "I bury myself in my work so I don't have to face reality." What's it kind of like having your reality be the work?
Well, I don't know how I said that or when I said that, but I imagine if I did say that, I meant that filmmaking is a wonderful luxury for escape. Acting is really, because we get to assume the personae of others, right? And there isn't a person on the planet who doesn't want to, at some point, escape his life in some way. Who knows, for whatever reason, even if momentarily, it's just a kind of natural inclination. So how did you phrase that question?
It was generally what's it like having your reality be the work?
Oh, well, it's funny. It's a weird kind of thin line. I don't and it's not. okay, it is in the sense that it's what I do, and so I receive a certain recognition for it from other people, strangers, people don't know me, and at the same time, it is very removed from who I am in real life, you know.
Mm.
And I like to play with that that line of that blurring of ambiguity, because I need something to call my own.
Mm. There's a moment in the film as well. It's kind of a glasses scene.
You know, Charlie gets me. That's the other thing, that Charlie gets me. And early on, you know, I realized that I have a kind of a natural theatrical nature, and I'm sort of, sometimes I like to play with people a little bit, you know. And I'm not playing with you, Jamie. I respect you enormously.
Thank you.
But but Charlie picks up. He was able to pick up on my behaviorisms that are odd or what have you. And so I think he had a natural instinct for, well, sometimes too much. I mean, I would be picking my nose on the bus, and he was fast asleep before I went in and dug around. And I swore I hadn't gotten my finger out of my nose yet. And there he is with the camera.
Don't worry, everyone. That scene is not in the film. You're spared that. But you are.
Yeah, I'm spared that in lieu of my toe fungus.
Exactly. There's the pedicure scene, I'm afraid, which everyone has to brace themselves for. Did you see that, Jamie? The pedicure scene?
I did. I've seen the film. There's that. There's the haircut scene. I mean, you really had some treatments throughout this film.
Well, I have to say, I went into it very boldly and boldly. I was not going to do it if it was, I'm no fan of hagiography any more than anybody else would be. And I was not going to subject myself to some public relations hand job. You know, this was going to be something that I went willingly to, honestly, accepting that the sword cuts both ways. I would argue that it is 1,000 cuts one way versus another, but that's it. No, it's you know, ultimately it's not even about whether I like it or not. It's I think Charlie did a wonderful job telling the story of an actor. Were there scenes I wish he might have included? Absolutely. But ultimately it's his film. And that's the other thing. I had to let go of any proprietary kind of notion. So, you know, and if you're going to let someone follow you, you can't pick and choose the kinds of things that you're willing to subject them to.
Mm.
You've got to give them everything and let them select it.
Which was a tough thing to do. I mean, Theo still hasn't forgiven me for some of the things I cut out of the film. But in many ways, I haven't forgiven myself. I had 200 hours and so much of it was excellent stuff. And as any filmmaker will tell you, cutting that down to an hour and a half or whatever it is extremely difficult. You're killing babies left, right, and center. And I wish I could put some of those scenes back in, but unfortunately, you have to be loyal to the form, and you can't subject people to something that's too long. So you have to be mindful of all of that as well. It's difficult.
I mean, you know, who knows what the future will bring that might enable the opportunity to see some of that footage that didn't make it. But really, I mean, I say this without, you know, without meaning to boast, but we had an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
Because Charlie was so focused on me for a very concentrated period of time. And because I gave him access to almost entirely my life, except for maybe getting up in the morning and brushing my teeth. And only because he didn't wake up in my apartment, which despite my attempts to ensnare him.
Moving on.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it, Jamie.
You were saying there you have 200 hours or so of footage, and you've kind of managed to whittle it down to have this one kind of overarching theme. I think it's kind of summed up. There's a scene where you're on a film set, Theo, and you're talking about your glasses, and you say, if I have them on, I'm me. If I don't have them on, or if I have a different pair, I'm the character. And you have that distinct divide between yourself and your characters. And this is to both you and Charlie. Was this something that you went into the film looking for the distinction between an actor and his characters?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I had in mind throughout, which is, I guess, this presentation of self and performance, and the title of the film, Front Stage and Back, alludes to that. There's this kind of interesting relationship between how we present ourselves to a conscious audience who are in front of us on stage versus how we might be in our more private moments at home, relaxed, when we are more our real selves, so to speak. And I think as an actor who's performing, we're also actors performing when we're not an actor like Theo. So I wanted to explore that kind of connection and what that says about who we are, what makes us do what we do, what makes us who we are. So the film is attempting to explore that distinction between the front stage self and the backstage self. As far as the glasses scene, yeah, I think it kind of captures that quite well. Maybe Theo can explain more the issue there.
Yeah, I guess Sir Laurence Olivier always felt that he built a character from the outside in. So the minute and I think, who was it, Dame Judi Dench might have echoed this too. It was a British actor, female, I think. And she said she subscribed to the same method, if you will, which is that when you start to put the costume on and you see who you're going to be, it has a way of internalizing this effect on you that enables you to start to really inhabit the person. So if I'm wearing glasses that I don't wear in real life, I suddenly get closer to some other person than I would be if I'm wearing my own glasses. My own glasses hold me back, even if they allow me to see. They hold me back from full immersion. I'm aware that I'm wearing my glasses, which means I'm still Theo and not. And that's a kind of a weird, tricky psychological thing. But it would bother me to have those on, because I would somehow constantly dwell on that, and it would scotch any attempt to perform.
Mm-hmm. Charlie, when you
if that's helpful to you.
Absolutely, any answer is helpful in something like this. Charlie, I was wondering, when it comes to something like, particularly in regards to what Theo was just saying, and the various sort of auditions you went to with him, all the things you saw him do, were your eyes kind of, I guess, opened to a different side of an industry, to the acting industry in general? Because, of course, you lie in, is it sort of editing and directing?
Yeah, I'm kind of editing and cinematography and camera work. So I'm familiar with that kind of world to an extent, particularly, when I started out in New York in 2010, 2011, I was quite familiar with that. It's very, very low budget, short film kind of world where people are trying to make names for themselves, but the projects don't really go anywhere. And Theo's been there as well. He's acted in a lot of films like that in the past. And so I am familiar with that kind of world, but Theo takes that. Some of his projects are so bizarre and so unusual. He almost takes that to a whole new level. And it's almost the sheer volume. He's done hundreds of these kinds of projects. And I was lucky to have access to those and include them in the films. So whether it's to drive the narrative at the time or tonally, I used those clips as a kind of mechanism to push the film forward, while also showing what Theo has been doing for a living and is doing for a living. So Yeah, I guess to answer the question, I am quite familiar with that, but in Theo's case, it's kind of extra special.
Was the Charlie? Remind me, because I've not seen the film lately, and I saw it in such a gulp. Is that scene we did the performance with the drunk Santa? Is that, does that open it, or?
No, yes, well, the preparation for that scene is at the beginning.
Okay, the preparation. And do we see
going through the streets
outside?
part at the end? Yeah, outside
Okay.
part is at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, those are. It's weird how Charlie's time with me overlapped really fairly significant things that were on the docket for me that I hadn't planned, but just in this happenstance way that is an actor's life, where you just don't know which opportunities are coming sometimes. That they were all, I can think of at least 4 that were all interesting, and you know, it was lucky for us that they did.
Mm.
I mean, I rarely, Jamie, not again, not to boast, but because I'm somebody who doesn't like to be idle, excuse me, and because of so much activity, a lot of work comes to me in addition to having to audition. So, for instance, right now, having had my latest feature film open in December and having it now stream on Mubi with another film of mine for the same director, dovetailing into what are my rehearsal preparations for my next play with my theater company, which Charlie is very familiar with, and the director adores him. We actually, I was supposed to be back in New York right now, but for the current variant, which has made everybody sort of recede a little. So we'll commence with the rehearsals in February, and I'll return and I'll begin the play. But I'm also reading right now for a feature that, you know, I don't know that I'll get this role, but if I do, I will be a baseball player, a third baseman, which is hilarious. You know, but I love the challenge and I like to work. And when I don't work, I really feel that omission.
Yeah, I think what I hoped would make this film interesting as well is we all see the films we see, they're on Netflix, they're on Prime or whatever. We go to the movie to see it.
That's true.
And we see big films, but a lot of this work that gets done never gets seen, and it's kind of in this forgotten kind of shadow where.
Well, Charlie, it gets seen by those of us in the industry.
Yes, a lot of them are seen by those of the industry, and there are even projects that really don't see the light of day at all. I mean, you've done a whole mix of things. Some things have done really well and been seen by a lot of people,
absolutely.
And other things have been seen by virtually no one. And I think that provides a kind of interesting window into a side of the industry that people don't really hear about and don't really see about. So there's that aspect, and also just Theo as an actor working on these projects. You don't see what it's like. It's particularly a man of Theo's age. He's in his late 50s, and he has to balance between work that's going to pay the bills and get some money, and then also work that is artistically stimulating and of a higher level. So he has to weigh that up, and yeah, so we see what it's like being an actor in this competitive New York world where there's a lot of weird, strange projects out there that actors will do that most of us will never even see or hear about. So that is an aspect of the film that I hope is interesting.
Mm-hmm. There's quite a bit about both of those answers, really, that I'd like to unpick. But one particular moment, it's just one brief thing that you said, Theo. You said that when you first saw the film, I think you said it was a bit of a gulp. What did you mean by that?
Well, I watched it
twice
in full. I watched, I guess I saw it a few times now. I've seen it 3 or 4 times. And each time I have, I'm looking for different narrative strengths. because it's hard, even if Charlie had every piece of footage that I sanctioned or somehow blessed, it is still, just as it is in fictional films of mine, having to sit through my premiere in December. It's just hard to look at myself on screen and reconcile that I'm this person. So it's just, that part is difficult. So then I tend to focus on, and most actors say the same thing, they hate looking at themselves on screen. It's just because you start to find all of the little things that you should have done. You realize that the editor has a great stake in controlling what people see, because they take the best takes, and sometimes those takes are not consonant with what you think is the best take, but what you think is the best take had a siren outside you didn't hear, and there are all these other things, or there are, they have to match up the cuts with eye line and things like that. And as I've gotten, I'll say this, for having Charlie alluded to volume, I'm very, very conscious of that when I'm making film. I try to be an editor's dream. I remember exactly what I pick up on a certain word. I don't look this way this time, and then that way the next. I'm very. This is the hard part of acting, of course, is the concentration between the performance, and then if you want to add all those other little things, which good actors have nailed. And I'm not saying that makes me a good actor, but I aspire to that because I know that good actors do. It is what is so exhausting about performing, and I do think that this shows ordinary people whose diet of film, movies, whatever you want to call it, cinema, is strictly what's at the local Cineplex. Another side of what we do, which is that independent filmmaking is thriving, but outside of cinephiles who subscribe to Criterion and Movie and certain streaming channels, go to festivals, read about, read film magazines, there are a lot of people who know what it is that know that this world exists outside of, they think Hollywood is it. So it's funny to me because I'm so immersed in this. I can't believe that anybody else doesn't know that it exists.
Yeah, I mean, and kudos to the Paris International Film Festival for, I feel like they're more open to that sort of world than the classic big famous festivals, and obviously testament accepting and having our film part of it obviously shows that they know what they're doing.
And I think that's exciting. It really is, because you can't, if you're only going for certain types of things, you're not really giving your audiences an actual reflection of what the marketplace is bears or produces.
Mm. To kind of go back to the personal side for you for a second, Theo, there's a moment in the film as well, and a couple of points throughout, where you're looking back on your work, on your IMDb credits, and you say, look, I've got all these things and probably only about 5 of them are any good. But have you ever looked back on your career? Is it something that you tend to do, or was it Charlie coming to you and pitching this film? Was that one of the first points?
Oh, I do all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm not to interrupt you, but I think all actors do, number one. And I think they do for different reasons. One is that at a certain point, if you're in mid-career, let's say, you've done as many films as I have, and let me just backtrack to explain that for a moment. I came into this a little late. I was a late starter. So I felt this inadequacy that could only be remedied by the reinforcement of constantly working. That would be my training, and it certainly was. I mean, it has borne out nothing but truth. But in all of that excess, shall we say, it was a certain lack of discrimination, really in the beginning, I was just really going for not so much volume, but challenges. So if I was playing something one day, I was doing something the next. And there were some weekends I was making student shorts and I would be playing a role on Saturday and somebody else on Sunday. And that's how I cut my teeth. And as I sort of graduated to features, I started to become more discerning. And I would say in the last few years, really since Charlie, put his lens in front of me, I am very, very discerning now. I've really reconciled a few things, which is that I never went into this for fame and glory to begin with. So my whole thinking was have a steady array of interesting independent film parts, maybe 2 a year, and have my theater company in between seasons. So, and then I work as an editor I'm copy editor, proofreader, and fortunately I'm able to do that remotely. And fortunately I'm in somewhat demand. So I can, as long as I can live modestly or pay for my lovely Mini Cooper and put petrol in it, as you'd call it, and garage it, and or you would say garage it, right?
Garage, I would say. I don't know about you, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm gonna say garage as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I say garage, and as long as I can keep a modicum of things that enable me, I need to be able to throw my lavish dinner parties. I'm okay with that, and so I'm at a stage where I like to be thought of as a respected colleague, and I'm happy that people still bring me scripts that are interesting. Mm-hmm. And so I'm meeting with a fellow when I get back to New York about a part, and I've got an audition this week, and there are a couple of other things that are in the offing as well. I'm grateful for that, and that has come from a bit of tenacity, a lot of work, and the amount of work creating a visibility for me that keeps me among those who are actors who are that directors, filmmakers are aware of in the fore. So that's been helpful, mm-hmm. And who knows what tomorrow will bring, but that's really just my goal, is to just keep at it. But having that kind of a concerted discipline, I'm still looking back at what I've done and saying, in fact, I'm building a reel right now and I'm going through it and I'm realizing there are things that I collected because they were simply the most recent, but they're not worth pursuing. They're for whatever reason, we can live without seeing them. And that's hard because I have to self-edit. But you really become choosier. You should become choosier as an actor because
I think the film came at a point where you were transitioning from that, weren't you? You had just come.
I think that
where you were
true,
not
Charlie,
discerning
yes.
and doing absolutely everything and anything, to now where you say you're much more discerning and you'll only do certain projects that make sense. So the film kind of is shot through that kind of transition phase in your career, I guess.
I guess I think that would be the best way to put it. Yeah. Because a couple of things happened, and that is that the proliferation of theater roles became more important to me. And as an actor, we have to think about our age. I mean, there's just no escaping it. And the fact of the matter is, older actors, any actor over 50, probably will find better parts on stage than they will in film. I think they will. And better yet, in London, say, and in the continent, which is why I have a manager in London and Poland, whom I haven't really had a chance to galvanate. because of COVID. You know, that's the other thing, is that all of this has happened, and then COVID stole 2 years of our lives, and we're all just sort of revving back up again. And so, you know, we shall see.
Before I sort of go on to my final question for this, would it be safe to say that, taking some of the things that you said there, that you're a fairly hopeful person, someone who's just enjoying living their life as it is?
Oh, magnificently so. I mean, I'm part of the happiness psychology movement. I am a glass half full person. I live on hope like you do Marmite.
I can't say I'm a Marmite person.
Oh, don't you love that stuff?
It's the whole brand is it's you either love it or you hate it. I land in the hate it camp. For me, Jaffa cakes are what I run on. I don't know if you've ever had one of those. I fully recommend them.
Oh, no,
Okay.
I'm not a Jaffa cake fan. I do like Marmite though.
Okay, you can have that then.
But I am a consumer of hope. Yes, I think for performers, there's really no other state of mind, because you're going to learn quickly that without it, you could have some frightful days.
I mean, that one of the things that first drew me to Theo, and what I wanted to explore somewhat with the film, is what I find interesting in people in general as well, actually, is our contradictions. And Theo now says he's a glass half full and happy, but there are times when he'll say that he's very melancholic and not feeling that way. And he's also a very proud person, but on the flip side, he's also completely unashamed and will roll around in the mud with pigs, and he'll do. So he's also extremely eloquent, well-spoken, but he can also be somewhat preposterous at times. So Theo is a man of contradictions. And that is something that I think comes through in the film, and that I think is interesting about all of us is our contradictions. And so insofar that the film is on that surface layer about a struggling working actor in New York, it's also underneath that more a look again at what makes us who we are, what makes us do what we do, and how we present ourselves, not only to an audience, but to ourselves as well. So I wanted the film to kind of, Louis Theroux, one of my heroes, always said a film should describe a film. What's it about? What's it really about? And then what's it really, really about? So I've tried to achieve those three levels. I'm not sure how successful I was in doing that, but it does try and achieve those different levels. I don't know if any of that came across for you, Jamie, when you watched it. What did you make of it?
It's the one I was going to ask as well. Do you see it as a hopeful film? Because I kind of do. The whole story of, yes, there is this struggling actor, but it's someone who is powering through, someone who has this love for their craft and celebrates it and is determined to absolutely throw themselves into it. And I think there's something very admirable about that, and especially also following them through that whole course. And you know, the fact that you said you followed Theo for 2 whole years making this film, and the fact that you followed him for 2 years, I think also shows that you had hope and believed that there would be success.
I think both of us, we have we enjoy the process, we love the craft, and we had a lot of fun making it. We had a lot of fun throughout those 2 years, and I think for us, we're not doing it for fame and fortune. That's not enough. So you have to enjoy the process, otherwise it's going to be tough. But
well, we're open to surprise, as anyone would be, but our motivations are not entrenched in that kind of pie in the sky thinking, because if someone has those sorts of inclinations, this all or nothing kind of thing, I think they're going to find themselves very disappointed by what we do. Filmmaking is not for the faint of heart. I mean, it is a commitment, and if you're serious about it, you've got to make it on with very little often, and that's not easy. And with very little expectation on its return. The accolades, they come from, this quarter, that quarter, but they're not teaming often. Sometimes they are for overnight. It's just a mindset that you're doing this because you're passionate about it. And for Charlie, who's a sort of like a photojournalist, he's interested in character studies. I'm interested in them too, from a different vantage point, though. But we're both committed to what we do, or we wouldn't be in near middle age, or in my case, over. We would have become doctors, and found something very sensible. But you don't do this because you care about sensible. You do this because you're impassioned, and you can't do anything else.
Well said.
Excellent. To kind of go.
Nor do you want to do anything else. That's really the bottom line. Nor would you want to. And I'll just add this as a coda. I was a late starter. I was in my late 30s. However, when I found it, it was as if I'd found a buried treasure. I knew this was my destiny, and there was no turning back.
You have this passion, you have this drive, and it's something that's also in the film. And clearly, from you speaking just then, there's no questioning it whatsoever. And this is my final question. Did both of you kind of have this shared bond of creative pursuits that fueled you through the 2 years, whether that be acting or filmmaking, directing, anything within that industry? Was there this shared bond of creative pursuits?
I think yes. I think we worked together before on a film, Bag Boy Lover Boy, that did well and we're both proud of. And we went up, we're in the years since then, we'd all gone off and done our own projects, and to work on this together, a small film, small budget and small crew. And we were kind of, in a way, we were relying on each other. We were trusting each other, investing a lot of time and effort. And I guess through that shared trust and time spent, that you do create a bond for sure.
Yeah. That's one of the lovely sort of byproducts of this whole thing, is that I made a lifelong friend of Charlie.
I have the portrait of him that develops throughout the film. I have on my wall, so I get to.
Oh, you do.
I get to look at Theo every day. 2 years of filming, then another 2 years of editing, and now the rest of my life with this picture on my wall. So
Dorian Gray.
So there's been a lot of Theo.
Did you frame it, Charlie?
It is framed, yeah. It's
I would love to see how you framed it.
Yeah, it's in New York right now, but you'll see it when I get my hands on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Charlie lives bicontinentally.
Yeah, I'm in London at the moment, but I'll be back in New York soon.
Is that so you can take the picture home?
That's so just so I can pick up the picture. That's right. My prized possession.
Well, I will thank you both. And I'll thank you both very much for your time. It's been wonderful to talk to both of you. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your film?
Anything I'd like to say? No, I guess I hope you enjoy it. And
go see it.
Yeah, it'll keep you entertained. Theo's a good entertainer, and I'm confident you'll have fun watching it. So,
and if you like it, we promise you a sequel.
Yeah. Another hour and a half of Theo. What more could you ask for? And a thank you to you, Jamie, and a thanks to the Paris International Film Festival for being our first screening. It's
yes,
it's
I'm very honored. Thank you to you, Jamie, for interviewing us. Thank you to the Paris International Film Festival for screening us, and thank you to Charlie for making us. And I'm very grateful that this was our virgin voyage.
You're very welcome. You can watch Front Stage and Back as part of the Paris International Film Festival from the 10th until the 20th of February.